Premier League clubs are set to announce a groundbreaking change to kit sponsorships, with gambling firms likely to be outright banned from appearing on the front of shirts. Hello there everybody, Adam Cleary, FourFourTwo here, and if something just looks slightly wrong to you about this picture, then, well, get used to it. I mean, obviously not really. Premier League clubs simply love money too much to ever allow it to get to this point, but the fact remains, if the legislation they're planning on bringing in was brought in right now, this is how it would look. And not just for Newcastle United, but for nearly half of the entire league. So what's actually happened? Well, nothing yet, you're right, but at a meeting on Thursday of this week, the Premier League were apparently voting on whether or not to ban gambling firms from advertising on the front of Premier League kits. Is that a big deal? Well, yes, it's an enormous deal, because if we just look at this beautiful graph here for a second, you can see 40% of the Premier League currently have a betting firm on the front of their shirt. That's Bournemouth, Brentford, Everton, Fulham, Leeds, Newcastle, Southampton and West Ham, all potentially affected by this rule change. Also, just a quick one, you've got Wolves, Tottenham, Liverpool and Brighton all sponsored by financial services as well. Pretty sure that's just gambling for rich people. Not that I'd know, but... Now, reports are that clubs would get around 3 years to finish their existing deals, and it's only a ban on the very front of the shirt, not the sleeve part or the bottom of the back or the top of the back, which happens in some countries and looks really weird to me, but anyway, I digress. So it's not as dramatic as it necessarily sounds, but still fairly significant given how prominent it is. So the question is, why are the Premier League doing that? They get loads of money from these gambling firms. Why voluntarily agree to get rid of them? Well, the answer is twofold, my friends. First of all, this comes after years and years of pressure from charities and anti-gambling groups saying the Premier League needs to take more responsibility for the impact gambling has on society and just stop featuring it as prominently. And that's not exactly new, because if you think back to the 90s, it was alcohol that was the predominant sponsor of Premier League shirts, and over time the clubs have steadily moved away from that. Not through any legislation or any official rule, but they did at least see which way the wind was blowing in regards to alcohol advertising. It's got some of the strictest in the world in the UK, so it was a case of, well, let's just not pursue that as an avenue because sooner or later it'll bite us in the arse. And they are probably due a little bit of credit for correctly reading the room on this one. Like, anti-gambling advertisement is unignorable these days, and even pro-gambling advertisement tends to carry a little disclaimer saying, are you absolutely sure you want to gamble? It could be pretty bad for you. My favourite one personally is the ones that go, hey, use our betting app. It comes with all these great tools that will stop you using this betting app. But the main reason they are bringing this in is it is a case of them jumping before they are pushed by the government. You see, there is a major government report due in April of this year that looks on gambling advertisements, specifically in sport, and what impact that's having on people. And it's been repeatedly implied by the government that that report is likely to recommend an outright ban on betting advertisement in the Premier League. And ultimately, because it would be government legislation, there's not really anything the Premier League would do about it. Like, don't get me wrong, there'd be back and forth and there'd probably be a bit of compromise. They would try and reach an agreement together, but if the government just turned around and said, look, at the end of this season, we don't care what contracts you've signed, get rid of all the gambling firms completely, the Premier League would probably have to do it. So this move by the Premier League is ultimately designed to do it on their terms rather than have something they don't like imposed on them a few months down the line. And that's why there is a 3-year grace period so they can see out all these contracts. That's why it's only a ban on the front of the shirt. You can still have it on the sleeve, so you can still work with these companies, you can still get a bit of their money. So while it's almost certainly not going as far as the government would probably recommend, it's still a good enough step that their view will be, well, we could come down on them really hard, we could go full scorched earth and get into a whole thing, and then end up having to compromise into pretty much this arrangement anyway, or we can leave them to it because, you know, they're going to sort it themselves. But of course, this does beg the question about what's going to happen to the Football League, because not only are the front of their shirts rife with betting companies, but they have several divisions that are literally sponsored by them. I don't think it's too much of an exaggeration to say that betting firms are pretty much propping up the entire football pyramids in this country. So what are they going to replace them with? It's going to be crypto, isn't it? Because that won't end in tears. So there you go, that is the Premier League's impending ban on gambling firms advertising on the front of shirts. Explained nice and neatly for you. I hope that's cleared up. Let us know what you make of this in the comments below. Good idea, bad idea, all opinions welcome. And of course, don't forget to like, share and subscribe. I say subscribe all the time because I really do mean it. It helps us out a whole bunch. Anyway, until next time, I've been Adam Cleary and I'll see you soon. Goodbye.